Hi everyone, Melvin Lim, PropertyLimBrothers. Now today we are at the next episode of our Q&A session at PropertyLimBrothers show. Now, why don't we kickstart with the session straight away? Alright, so why don't we kick start with the first question now. We have another question that is from a seller that's planning to sell their place. Now this question reads, I urgently need to sell my current property as I've already purchased another private property because my son is entering into school next year. So what can I do to ensure that I can reach out to as many potential buyers as possible in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months when I list my property up for sale? Now, interesting question. We do have similar questions in the past episodes. Why don't we think through how a buyer will actually search for a property? As you guys all know that the quickest instinct if you're a property buyer, the first thing is you will definitely go online using your phone or using your desktop. Probably you're at work or you're at home watching the TV and however you're searching for properties for a new home. Definitely you will go online. The highest hit rate is via online portals, and that is where most of the buyers will still go to. Now, I'm not saying that newspaper ads don't work anymore, but definitely the highest percentage is searching through this device or either through this device. So naturally, a buyer will actually go to a property portal and look for a specific type of property in a specific area based on their budget, the type of size that they want, the age of the property. I assume that this question is from a listener who is trying to sell their residential properties. You have to think about how they are going to look for this property and eventually land on your property itself. But posting your property actually on property portals, I would probably term it as a way whereby this approach is a little bit more passive. Why? Because technically speaking, you are listing your property up there and you're waiting for people to react. It has some sort of a waiting element in there. So what we essentially want to do is that usually for all our clients, when we come to marketing their property, we want to embrace both approaches, which is the passive side of it. That means we do the listing to the best quality and list it on all the major platforms to give the maximum exposure. But we also embrace the very active and a little bit more aggressive side of it, which is we create a good content. We bring the content of that particular property by bringing out its called unique factors, its inherent factors, the angle of the property, and then we position the property by creating the content and pump it into this device. And this is what we call targeting, because through this we can actually list the property up to all the major social media platforms, and then we pump it to people's phones so that it draws more attention. For example, just to share with you this particular one, this was a property that we actually listed 2 weeks back, and for the past 14 days we have had 15 buyers that came from our 2 open houses. This is the one at Grand Hill. I believe some of you have seen it. One of the very nice penthouse that we have just listed, and we're in the midst of negotiating for this property itself. Now, this 15 groups that actually came through for the past 14 days, every buyer that actually walked through, we will try to track where they actually get the response from our ad. Now, what we found is that out of the 15 groups, about 60 to 70% of them saw the property from here. And it's through social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well. And the balance percentage actually came from the property portals. So both sides works. But of course, just to imagine that if we were to just depend on just the portals itself, the amount of result would not be as good as embracing the whole approach. So importantly, if you are listing a property, you have to think of how the buyer will actually react to see your ads and how visible is your ad. And this approach basically is good because when someone sees that particular property, probably they might think through, hey, I have a friend who is looking for a penthouse. Hey, I have a friend who is looking for a 3-bedroom in this area. They will just share, click the share button, share to their Facebook page, or they will just copy the link and send to their friends. And this has worked for a lot of our properties, which has the video content on our platforms. Now, I hope that answers your question. I am currently still staying in my property, and I really love what you do for staging, and I'm still occupying the space. It's going to be quite inconvenient if the staging is going to take place if my family is still staying there. Then we have kept it neat and decluttered, but what can we do outside of physical staging? Now, probably I will just hashtag this thing called property tech time. All right, so let's have a look. This is what we have done for one of our recent listing, just to show you how it looks like. For our properties, usually what we do is we will create this virtual tour. Okay, so just to ensure that we can see this, can we see this? So there's this actual virtual tour. So you can see that this is actually the pool area. All right, the actual unit, physical unit, the pool area, and then we can actually go inside to the room itself. You know, you can walk around. This is what we call a physical virtual tour. Gives a very good visualization for buyers that actually is contemplating whether to come physically to view this property. Now, we have successfully rendered a real-time virtual render of this exact unit, and this is the end result. What we do is that the buyer is able to visualize what happens to this unit after the renovation, and they are able to actually see much clearer in terms of what can the 3D rendering do to this particular unit, so that without a physical staging, the virtual staging actually takes place, and it helps the buyer to actually better visualize everything exactly in the same layout. And if you can see, this is exactly the same as the actual physical one. So other than the physical staging, what you can do is also to consider doing a kind of virtual staging instead. In fact, it's very popular overseas, but we're bringing this technology to our consumers now so that it can really help people who can't really do the physical staging. I hope that answers your question.